The next portion we'll go into is kind of the elbow assessment. I'll generally do this a couple of different ways, but depending, I'll actually do a lot of it standing and sitting. But what we're going to do is just first kind of look at active range of motion. Can you bring your elbow back to you down just like that? Perfect. Any pain or anything? Awesome. So if that's fine, what I want to do is actually test quadrants. And I test that a couple of different ways. So I can come in, going just like that, turning the wrist, going here, and actually even back, going there. But oftentimes, because most of the times we come to our hands with our mouth, I'll come in here over pressure, here over pressure, just testing all quadrants of the muscle. The reason that we kind of want to do that a little bit is because this is such a versatile joint. Oftentimes we think we cleared it, but not necessarily. There is a little bit lagging at the very end. What I can also do with this as well is, depending on what's going on, I can also add like a kind of a little bit of a varus force going in, or even a valgus force going in. And the same goes a little bit with extension as well. What I can do with extension, bring that back a little bit, is go ahead and extend your arm out for me. Awesome, just like that. So we can go here, go down, and going down. And if you see, letting it go into extension, I'm actually adding a little bit of overpressure as well. To add that one in, I always can add a little bit of a valgus force to go in, and I can come in here and add a varus force as well. Say one feels better than the other, or it actually relieves symptoms, this might actually give me another idea of symptom modification where I can actually go into treatment. Now, if I want to do the valgus and varus stress test, I can easily start that position. You start it at 0, coming in the plane of the joint, giving a little bit of a quad, coming in, got a little bit of quad. You want 15 to about 25 degrees on that. Going into the valgus, I'm actually stressing the UCL, or the anterior band, which according to research is a good one of the ones to help kind of clear the elbow. So even if I'm looking at shoulder, I want to clear the elbow, I definitely want to do a valgus stress test, and I actually want to do a resistive wrist extension test, lateral wrist extension test. But to do varus, I can come in here, go right there, add that, come in, add right there. To further differentiate, what I can always do too is kind of come in here, and if I think that there might be a radial issue going on, I can come in here and I can kind of compress the radial nerve and bend in and bend down. Now say that reproduces familiar symptoms, I want to retest it by coming in here, distracting, come out, and back up. Generally, I'm just trying to get an idea if there's something articular going on. If there is something articular going on, that should be fairly painful, but the distraction should be pretty relieving, following just kind of the clinical pattern of intra-articular issues. If it's, and actually the opposite could be said true, if we think something could be wrong with the capsule, etc., the stretch actually might be painful, but the compression will actually probably feel pretty good, and again can turn into a little bit of a treatment. Say if I want to look at kind of joint things as well, I want to look at kind of the joint play and all that, what I can do is come down into here, kind of get a good block here. So I'm blocking her arm right here. I want to do a humeral ulnar distraction. So go into here, I can just distract down. And often with this one, you can't just distract down because of the olecranon. You can come down and kind of scoop and hold just like that. So oftentimes I will get, it can just be just a little difference between good and bad. So I'll often even ask the report of the patients, like what feels good, what feels relieving. And generally what you'll have to do is a couple of times, but then you'll finally find out they're like, that's it. And then you can actually hold it, or you can oscillate in and out of that. With that as well, you can always add something at home of putting the arm in, going like that, just as a treatment style. Some other things that you can do, we already showed the radial humeral distraction. You can go to the radial ulnar, and you could always just kind of relax. You could go on to the radial head, right there, and easily go into a PA glide. You can go over and assess for the radial ulnar, I'm sorry. Come in here and find it and go more into an AP glide right there. Um, and then finally, what you can always do is what I find very beneficial as well is do mulligan tests. So oftentimes what I'll do is have a move, but what I'll do is a humeral ulnar lateral glide or medial glide, just depending. You can even do it down into the grip strength as well as an assessment. An assessment is treatment. So if I can find that and it does have that significant just reduction in pain, then oftentimes I can jump right into treatment there to reassess it perfect, know what to teach them at home, and then I can go down other avenues. But I definitely found that and have a little bit of buy-in even before we go further into the evaluation. So, going with this as well is we want to kind of screen the wrist, and the wrist can often do pronation and supination, and that can be very painful. So, oftentimes, what I'll do is two things. I'll test muscular in a way to see if that's causing anything. So, what I can easily do is I want you to hold your arm right here, just like that. Don't let me press you down. Ready? Hold, 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 hold. Good. And then switch it and test supination. Hold right here. Don't let me press you down. Ready? Hold, 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 and relax. Play around with this because it can be very uncomfortable. Now, if that's testing the larger muscles here, if I want to put those on a little bit of slack, I can come down here, test it as well. That might give me an idea if quadrator quadratus is causing some issues, etc. Just as a way to kind of screen it out. Next is we know that Cook states that at least 20 to 30% of supination comes from our wrist. So if we're having supination issues and we don't check the wrist, we're really missing out something very important. But the problem is there's so many joints down here. How do we know which one is which or which one's causing the issue? Easy is, take one, throw one thing against the wall and see if it sticks. So what I can come down here is easily come down to the distal radial ulnar joint, stabilize with this hand, kind of have that grasp for wrist, and then just passively kind of go back and forth. Any pain with that? Perfect. So just like there, it can go into overpressure, go into overpressure. Then what we want to do, move up the chain a little bit. So go slightly up, grab onto that proximal row. Again, going back and forth. Now I'm testing the mid-carpals. Feels fine there. Come up here, grab that distal, go back and forth. Now we're actually testing the carpometacarpals. Screen all of those in and just see is there something coming up from one of those, and it'll give you a huge differentiation between all of this. The key to it is that you might miss something unless you differentiated these. So that's why it's so important to just kind of glean it out a little bit. Just